Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Please call first. We still don't have a location. We're virtual. 612-315-6778. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence, the thought behind the thought. We try not to be disparate. We're Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. I'm a Methodist minister's kid. My father, John Blackford, was the best pastor ever in the history of the world, and he was a conservative Methodist. He was part of the Red Rock branch, which would be evangelical. He was educated at in Wilmore, Kentucky, at Asbury Theological, and he would do a top 10 every year. He would do his religious news events, and this is probably 40 years of these or longer. He would do religious and, just standard news. I haven't done it for a decade. I did a top 10 when he died in honor of him, and then I stopped and said, it's kind of a rehash, and I write original content, but I feel like doing it this year. So what about 2022? I'll give you a few of my ideas at the end, but we'll discuss the top 10. First, I want to point this out, that the globalists are amassing, and this is one of the leading globalists, Barbara Marx Hubbard. And so this sounds like the fourth seal, so keep that in mind, okay? 1/4 of humanity must be eliminated from the social body. We are in charge of God's selection process for planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. We are the riders of the green horse, death. And then just below that, that was upper left corner there, we will use whatever means we must make this of destruction, this act of destruction, as quick and painless as possible to the 1/2 of the world who are incapable of evolving. The selection process will be quick. Then upper middle, we the elders have been patiently waiting until the last moment before the quantum transformation. The destructive 1/4 must be eliminated from the social body. Then moving right. In the past, our glorious visions of the future, heaven, paradise, and nirvana, were thought to happen after death. The newer thought is that we do not have to die to get there. We are not speaking here of life after death in some mythical heaven, but life more abundant in real time in history. We are speaking of the next stage of our social evolution. So I see the meaning of Apocalypse, Revelation, as unveiling our deeper self. So she really has no feelings for us, the lesser people. It's all about them. And Noam Chomsky has mentioned it this way: the key element of social control is the strategy of distraction, that is to divert public attention from important issues and changes decided by political and economic elites through the technique of flood or flooding continuous distractions and is insignificant information. And then the final quote from Saul Bellow. I believe Saul is a communist. Boredom is an instrument of social control. Power is the power to impose boredom, to command stasis, to combine the stasis with anguish. The real tedium, deep tedium, is seasoned with terror and with death. And that's really what 2021 is all about and where 2022 is heading. So that'll give you the idea of the philosophy of the end of days, my top 10, where we look at prophecy. And keep in mind, I'm looking at pagan prophecies because they factor in too. They're telling us what they intend to do. We read the Bible and then we give you the news, not the fake news. So, number 10, Biden blues. Number 10 is that Biden screwed up in Afghanistan and set the world aflame. And then inflation, because he's stoking it, because he's making every single mistake possible. And Obama had a comment about that, which is, don't underestimate Joe's ability to blank things up. And that's true. That's in the middle there. Opinion Biden is already fumbling the Afghanistan withdrawal. He destroyed it. It's horrible. He left all the military surplus behind, and he left dead bodies strewn everywhere. Inflation is horrible, and he doesn't have any ideas, and he has the worst leadership team I've ever seen. I call them clowns. So his big, well, he has the top 25, obviously, but the big three right now are inflation, unemployment, and supply chain woes. And he doesn't have a way to fix any of them. He's not a business person. He's a government guy. He's been in the government for 37 years, just taking money and not accomplishing anything at all. He was a VP, but he didn't do anything there either. And also, when he was involved with decisions, if it was a bad decision, he had influence over it. Oh, goodness. So right now, things are looking bleak because he's He's surrounded by clowns. And I'm going to be stating that Trump is a clown now, too. That's number 3 on my list. And so we'll get to him later on. But really, Biden's been around forever. Kamala, I don't know how to describe her. Right now, it seems as though AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is really running everything. But there are so many clowns coming in on every side, and Trump is no better than those people. And I'll give you the reasons when we get to number 3. Okay, number 9 is no wars around Israel or with Israel right now. Iran has been stoking the fires of wars for years and trying to build their nuclear facility underground. But the foible, the problem is for, say, Monty Judah in the upper left, is he's a great guy, but he's a military expert. So every week he's prognosticating about wars. I can't do that. I mean, I compliment John Haller on his reports, but I can't do that either. I can't do an hour and a half, or today I watched this show, it was an hour and 44 minutes of massive amounts of information. Well, in this case, if you're going to predict wars, they have to happen sooner or later. Otherwise, you need to kind of shut up. And that's why I rarely ever talk about war. The main thing is, yes, there are nuclear talks going on with Iran and the United States and Israel, but nothing's really happened because we've waited so long that now Iran has built the things that they need, and so they're negotiating. They're lying in their negotiations. Okay, so it's all silliness. So basically what I'm saying is there has been no war, but there are wars going on right now. They're asymmetric wars. They're COVID wars. They're biological warfare wars. Okay, those things are going on right now, and disinformation wars. So war is different. And so we may not have another war until we get to the Gog-Magog war, which is right at the end before Yeshua returns. And so I wouldn't look at war like you're used to seeing war, which is you declare a war and, then you go to war. These are different wars, and I'm not sure that anybody's going to nuke anybody in the near future here. They're going to prove that they have the nukes available and the delivery systems possible, but I think what they're going to use is asymmetric warfare. So more drones, more acts of war, but no official war, and then agents of war. Those are the ways that things are going. So look for a war to change. Fake news is huge. I don't really like going out looking for news anymore because everything's fake. You've got the Como brothers, working with each other. You've got Trump talking about fake news, but he's kicking out fake news too. So, and fact checkers are bought and paid for by certain foundations, and posts are disputed, and the big apps are giving us fake news or pornography, which is worse than fake news. So you can't trust the news sources anymore. You can't trust hardly anybody. And all of the news sources are really owned by about 6 different companies. So News Corp, which is Fox, Time Warner, Comcast, Sony, Viacom, and Disney. Those are the big players, and you're stuck with them. And they're horrible. They give you junk, crud. It's unwatchable. So I like the little platforms. We'll see what happens with those. Number 7, inflation woes. Really, you're not noticing it yet, but if we lived any other place, especially Europe right now, we'd notice inflation for our natural gas and for our prices, for food, say, other things like that, or gasoline for that matter. Russia has stopped up their pipeline going over to Germany. This is not going to end well, people. So inflation is going through the roof. One source, and I can't remember who it was, they said when they start out this year in 2022, it's going to be a 40% increase for all of their products. And that's just the way it's going to be. So number 6, big tech oligarchy with pigs in space. So I'm seeing that these big tech guys are saying we're going to build underground bunkers, we're going to go to Mars, and we're going to let the little people fight it out on the Earth, and then we'll pop back up and populate it. And so the problem is you won't be able to own land shortly because Bill Gates is going to buy all the land, or other people will buy it. And the most wealthy companies in the world are really going to control the land and the rights and everything like that. And how do you fight the deep state? The problem is they have all the control, all the power, all the everything. So that oligarchy is the problem. They are the kings of the world right now. and they'll deplatform you. Dissent is not possible anymore, because really there are 10 types of companies in the world today, or maybe more than that, but they basically work together like the top 10 to control what is stated and what happens, and they surveil you everywhere. And AI will dominate us at some point in time, where the robots will be able to do the work. I sell robotics. It's coming along very quickly. So the main thing is we will see these companies dominating us, and those are the 10 horns of Revelation. It's big tech, and big tech will dominate who has a platform, who doesn't have a platform, who can speak, who can't speak, and it has nothing to do with rights or privileges or any of the the Bill of Rights, in America. That's already gone. Okay, and so be prepared for the Antichrist and his 10 kings not to come from Europe, but to come from technology. That's where it's going to come from, people. So number 6, the New World Order. So the tech giants are ruling with the Antichrist at some point in time. So this is from John Haller, and he said, with unaccountable tech giants serving as gatekeepers, the poisons the public discourse and corrodes our capacity for progress. Indeed, Obama was identified this lack of common baseline as the fact that the single biggest threat to our democracy, on both sides it should be, but unfortunately it's just the conservatives being shut down right now. And so when we see the bombs bursting, it's going to be in asymmetric warfare, as I mentioned before. Russia and the United States have most of the nukes. China really doesn't have many at all. So really, it's big tech that's frightening. So that's number 6. New World Order is the tech giants. And one more comment on that. The tech overlords will be going to Mars. Elon Musk has plans of taking basically 1 million people up to Mars. And he really believes that the world is going to get screwed up and that he wants to be there instead. So the rich pigs in space will hide until the poor pigs blow up the world. Well, that's why they're trying to go one direction or the other direction, up into space or down underneath the world. And the bunkers, by the way, are selling like hotcakes right now. Number 5, powerless, defanged corporate church. Oh, goodness. I've been involved with the church. My father was a pastor, as I mentioned. He started out in the 1940s, and he was a World War II veteran, a chaplain, and he was abused horribly by the Methodist Church. It was very difficult for me to attend the Methodist Church. I did it out of honor and respect for him, but eventually I just couldn't go because they were so abusive to him, and also they were abusive to any conservative whatsoever. Now, moving forward, the conservatives are a big mess too. So Franklin Graham doesn't believe vaccine, COVID-19, passport, microchips are the mark of the beast. Okay, fine, they aren't. But he doesn't care about it. He's already bought and paid for. So he's not opposed to any of this stuff that's coming down the line. He does see it's an excuse to exert more control and more control, he would say. And the world leaders are using this to lock down their countries. Okay, fine. But he doesn't see anything significant in it. Okay? Franklin Graham is bought and paid for. Another man that's bought and paid for is Robert Jeffress out of Dallas, Texas. Horrible, horrible man. He's basically part of the Trump conspiracy. He's a political pastor. He's bought and paid for, and he's defanged in terms of his church. He has no power whatsoever. When God chooses a leader, there's money in the God business, and he's a big money guy. And so he's also saying that Christians should take the jab. Well, they're both wrong, and they're both bought and paid for. There were great leaders years ago. Spurgeon was one of them, and you can see the decline from the Spurgeon time frame to today. But the modern end times notion has greatly damped the zeal of the church for missions, and the sooner it is shown to be unscriptural, the better for the cause of God. It's neither consorts with prophecy, honors God, or inspires the church with ardor. The church is not formed to be a social club, to produce society for itself, not to be a political association, not to be power in politics, nor even be a religious confederacy, promoting its own opinions. It is a body created of the Lord to answer his own ends and purposes, and it exists for nothing else. These corporate pastors, these men that make so much money and are political pastors, it's a joke, and it's powerless. The church is powerless. And also, the other side is these pastors that want the big rock show. So I live in Minnesota, and our biggest church is Eaglebrook, and they had in 2020 their Leonard Skinner Freebird cover concert, and so it was a big rock show, and it's a big joke. But they worship the most people. They worship 48,000 on Christmas and 22,000 people every weekend. And Hillsong is a big one from New York and other places. And they're just a big rock concert. So I guess the point is that you either become a political pastor or a rock show pastor. Either way, it stinks and the church is dead, as far as I'm concerned. There are some small churches that are going some places, but the big churches, they're dead. They're wood. So, number 4, uncertainty for people. Lots of uncertainty. And the World Economic Forum and other globalists have evil plans. So, welcome to 2030. I own nothing. I have no privacy. And life has never been worse. The U.S. experiments with World Economic Forum's "you will own nothing and still be happy" agenda by giving free money away. Build back better. When you hear that, that means your life is going to stink. Okay, and you look at the 17 goals of the world of the UN, we'll call it. No poverty, zero hunger. All of these things are associated not by bringing people up, but by bringing the people that are middle class down. So there won't be a middle class. There will be the upper class and poor people. And if you're in the middle class, you might be able to survive if you're lucky enough to find the right job, but otherwise you'll probably go down to the poor class. So it's going to work out. So all of these things sound so good on paper, but they end up destroying freedoms as we go to a one world government. And that's going to provide uncertainty for us. Is my job safe? Is my family safe? Should we prep? Should we move to a safe zone? Are we moving to a cashless society? Should I sell stocks and buy gold? I don't know. Uncertainty. We see the pyramid. We see the wealthy on the top. We see the debt slaves down below. They want us in debt. You will own nothing. The UN-backed Great Reset is feudalism. And the guy running it is Klaus Schwab, the guy in the upper left. He's evil. He's a completely evil man. And there's nothing we can do about it. And you can see by the picture in the upper middle section there, Donald Trump, Melania, and Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell. So Trump isn't your friend, people. You want him to be your friend. He's number 3. He's coming up in a moment here. So just keep in mind that this pyramid doesn't work well for us. It really is going to divide and conquer us, and we aren't on the top. So that's how things are going to go. So big tech, big satellites, big pharma, big media, big woke, big banks, big China, big church, it's dead. Big slavery, big cosmos, all these things are working against us right now as they all come together, and we seem to be the guys on the outside. Number 3, the rise and the speedy fall of Donald Trump. He came up to be president in 2016, 2017, and he is failing us. He's being heckled by crowds now because he's declaring that he's the guy that delivered everything for you and got, Operation Warp Speed going, and he's telling you to go get jabbed and the rise and the fall. He's falling, guys, okay? So it's really based on January 6th. He should have backed off from that and not been involved. That is not what a president does, okay? And then the other problem is the jab. He's saying that is critical. He's the guy that wants all the credit or all the blame for that. And he's going to get it. So Bill O'Reilly is jumping in with Donald Trump on this too because he wants ratings. He wants to get back on Fox. So it isn't going to happen. They're both sexual abusers. They both womanize. So Trump is for the jab. Trump wants credit for the jab. Trump is telling you to take the jab. Trump may be prosecuted for January 6th. We'll see. It was stupid. It didn't need to occur. Just take it like a man, okay? If you lost, walk away from it. And thank him for what? For being involved with really wicked people. So it's his ego that's going to get in the way, and he's going to fall over this. He's already, I don't want him. I'll never vote for him again, that's for sure. And others won't either. Number 2, dissent is being criminalized. Censorship, there's gaslighting, there's all sorts of problems. So right now, if you go on the Joe Rogan program and you say something that they don't like, YouTube and Twitter will delete you. Okay, so Malone's out, and Malone is a brilliant man, and he's really not all that biased. He's just claiming what he's seeing, and they're criminalizing opinions. and I think he has a strong opinion on this. So now Rogan is realizing he's probably going to get deleted too. So he's going to go to a platform called Getter, after Twitter banned Dr. Robert Malone and Rep. Major Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know much about her. I don't follow her, but it is interesting to see that the little platforms are popping up, but big tech will be able to block those small programs or platforms at some point in time. So just keep that in mind. Um, Dissent is being criminalized, people. The First Amendment is going away. And that's too bad. We never fought for it. We never even tried to fight for it. So when CNN and others say mostly peaceful protests and your city is burning out, and I live right next door to Minneapolis, so I know what happened in Minneapolis, and they kept on saying, oh, it's mostly peaceful. No, it wasn't. It was horrible. And people were dying and being raped and other things like that. And the police have to stand down. And I know police officers from Minneapolis, they couldn't do anything. They're basically told to stand down and take it. And some of them are quitting too. So, as I mentioned before, censorship. Donald Trump is censored, as I mentioned. Other people are being censored, and words are being censored. There's only certain things that you can say now. Most of us get together and discuss the things that we can't talk about on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and it's just amazing how tech is able to get away with this, and the Supreme Court says nothing about it because they really don't care either. So number two, dissent criminalized, censorship, gaslighting. As I mentioned, the fact checkers are not fact checkers. They don't know what they're talking about. When they're trying to censor Dr. Malone, he's a brilliant medical doctor and researcher, and he did develop the technology for mRNA vaccines. And so the problem is he's censored, and the fact checkers are a bunch of bozos, and they get to keep on whatever they do. They're a bunch of punk kids, wet-nosed kids. So this is like communist China. We're becoming communist China. And Facebook admits the truth. Fact checks are really just lefty opinion. Yeah, we know that. It's quite obvious. Number one, fears. Everybody wants, in power right now, wants to control through fear. Keep in mind, demons wear masks. Okay? And demons arrest people like this Canadian pastor, Artur Pawlowski. Great man, wonderful man. And they've arrested him 3 times now. They're using control, intimidation, and this, we are not to the mark of the beast yet, but the phrases work here from Revelation 13, and it was allowed to cause anyone who would not worship the beast and the image of the beast to be put to death. And it forces everyone, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on his right hand or on his forehead. We're getting so close to that right now because of control, intimidation, and fears. So George Soros is going to start a new organization called Good Information Inc. to try to discredit independent media sources that expose globalist lies. And so he'll fight disinformation, and they will, take us out legally. So who knows what's going to happen? They're such sick pigs. So this is an article on the right-hand side with Omicron. Basically, it was just proven the other day here in Canada that the disease, we'll call it, jumped from wild animals to caged animals to human beings in the either ferret or the mink population. That's a horrible sign, people. That means this disease is stuck with us forever. So don't think it's going away quickly, because we can't vaccinate the whole wild population of animals. So be prepared for the worst. My best advice to you is work on health foods and health addendums, or not addendums, but like my vitamins and my minerals and other things like that I take every day. So go buy those types of things and be aware that this is part of number one, which is mass hypnosis or mass formation from Dr. Matthias Desmet, which means mass formation is there needs to be a lot of socially isolated people or people who experience a lack of social bond. Number two, people who experience a lack of sense making, unable to come to sensible conclusions. There is a lot of free-floating anxiety, free-floating because there's nothing to connect their anxiety to, no focal point. unable to identify what's causing, and so no way to deal with it. And they'll do anything to deal with it, but they can't because it's free floating. There's also a lot of free floating psychological discontent. People may experience their daily lives as lacking any purpose or meaning, and then that's how mass formation occurs. And that's what's going on right now. And the masters of our universe are using mass formation to control us. It's like hypnosis. And that's what's happening around the world. So we need to be aware of that and fight against that. If you love God and read your Bible, you'll be fine. Turn off your TV set, obviously, too. I did 8 years ago. I turned off my TV set. I haven't watched it since then. Predictions? Now, this comes from a pagan, and her name is Marion Salzman, but I want to point it out because it's very interesting, and then I'll get into my predictions after that. America loses its shine, is what Marion Salzman is saying, okay? And this is from the Mirror. Cities are going out of style. Cities are not going to be safe anymore. You'll be safer out in the country if you can leave. Then water becomes a luxury. I do see that happening. That makes a lot of sense. Water will become scarce. The big Bilderbergers, we'll call them, the guys with all the money, they know they want land and they want water and they want that kind of control. There will be more political instability. I do agree with her. Culture wars, yep, that's seal number one. New tech goes mainstream. She's claiming that every time after a downturn, you go into, after a pandemic, you come into technological advances. Probably correct with that, but tech is going to be huge anyway. It's just going to get more huge. Robots will be taking jobs, no doubt about it. Many middle-class jobs will just evaporate because robots can do it easier, better. And don't think of a robot as just like a figurine that is coated in steel or plastic and comes up and does a job. It can be as simple as my robots are basically just software add-ons. And so robots do a lot of activities now. It's amazing what they can do. So a robot can run a computer, basically. Online education, gene intervention, electronic pets, and more angst. Yeah, good enough. She's fairly accurate on all of this. Okay. Now this is other opinions on 2022, and I mean, there's the standard stuff, lower left. Knowledge will explode from Daniel 12:4, plague in the Middle East, Zechariah 14, rebirth of Israel, Isaiah 66, the Jews will return home, Jeremiah 23. All of these standard things that you expect to see. Famines, plagues, Matthew 24. I talk about this stuff all the time, but really. Henry Makow is accurate with this one. The banker's satanic conspiracy is the source of anti-Semitism. The sooner Jews rise up and oppose it, the sooner anti-Semitism will end. Obviously, many Christians are involved. When I criticize Rockefeller, no one says anything about anti-Christianism. So keep this in mind. Dr. Zev Zelenko the other day mentioned that there is a conspiracy to make the Christians angry at the Jews and the Jews angry at the Christians. So just keep that in mind as you move forward. You're going to see a lot more of that. This is one other French rabbi of upper right. The Messiah will come only when Christianity is totally fallen. So I ask you, is it good news that Muslims are invading Europe? It's excellent news. It means the coming of the Messiah, excellent news. I don't necessarily agree with him. I was hoping for a revival in Europe, but it's not happening. And so I'm telling you that you'll see more asteroids over time, probably not right away, but eventually. And you'll see more death, especially in 2022 and 23. Depopulation, inflation, economic collapse. And I'm telling you, the Bible is more relevant today than ever before. It is like reading your newspaper. Other things, impactors, earthquakes, volcanoes, possibly a tilt change, definitely a wobble, a rotational change. This is coming from Ben Davidson at Suspicious Observers. Mantle heaving, lithosphere, displacement, those types of things. These seem to be occurring as we move along towards the end of days. We are going through the birth pangs. I believe that we're seeing signs of Seal 4, but we are deep in Seal 3. We'll go into the tribulation at some point in time. We will hit the Great Tribulation later. This is my 2021 top 10. I believe things go along in the line. It's linear, okay? And we'll see what happens. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. If I'm right, you'll know it. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what garments will you wear? It's a wedding. That means that you're coming up to a celebration when the Mashiach arrives, and you want to be wearing white garments. And he's probably going to return on one of those two events, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. So you need to have clean garments. That's important to you. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you, and have a good 2022. And bless God for your being alive.